What's up guys, it's MCRulz here, back for another Hero Cantare video, and today I'm going to be comparing Queen No Name skills to Prime King Uma skills, and making my opinion on which one I think is overall better. So, I'm going to be sourcing the information through the bot on Milk's Discord, so shout out to them again. I'll leave a link to their Discord in the description below. And these two SS characters are probably the two most anticipated SS heroes for the global version of the game, considering how their skills will, ultimately change the entire meta. Maybe not in PvP as much, but definitely in PvE. Having them when they come out will be very, very useful for overall teams. So I'm going to be going over their skills first. I'll start with Queen No Name. So Queen No Name's Nightmare Slash, a C1 here, attacks 2 random opponents by 110% attack and inflicts 30% additional damage if they do not have buff effects, and removes 1 buff effect with 50% probability for each of the opponents if they have them. So that has the potential of doing 140% attack. So that's really good damage for a C1. And then on top of that, removes buffs if they have them with 50% probability. Now, I'm not sure what level that is. I assume it's either level 1 or level 5. But her stats down here are at level 90. So when they come into the game, obviously, if it's level 1, I'll clarify that this is level 1. But I assume that this is a level 5 skill here. We have a second skill here, Covering Fire. Attacks all opponents by 150% attack and boosts the morale of allies to boost their skill damage by 30% for 2 turns. So that's a really, really good C2. It does 150% and on top of that boosts skill damage by a massive 30%. So I was talking about this a little bit before. Since this boosts skill damage, let's say you're also running Flame Kun, right? Who boosts attack percentage with his C2. Would that stack? So if you had Kun's max attack stacked up to 20% or 30%, and then you went and used Queen No Name skill, would that stack? Or is Kun's also skill damage? Since I don't have Kun, I'm not too sure how it works. So if anybody knows that, could you just leave it in the comments? So, you could clarify for me. That'd be great. Then we have her C3 here, which attacks all opponents 3 times by 50% attack. Each attack inflicts 60% of additional damage to a random opponent and recovers 2 mana if an opponent is eliminated by this attack. So, excellent C3, especially for something such as hard mode. She'll be very useful there with her mana recovery, because you don't recover mana as quickly as you do in normal mode, when you're playing hard mode. So mana recovery after eliminating an opponent will help you to get in that extra damage that you need to do. So then we have her first passive here, which is a 15% attack boost, which is big, 15% HP boost, which is big, and then 10% damage deflection. So that'll help her tank a little bit more and do a little bit more damage, and she'll also have a bit more HP. Then we have her unique passive. So she becomes immune to damage for 1 turn when an ally or an opponent is eliminated, and then recovers 1 ally's HP by 50% of the hero's HP when the hero eliminated makes the ally immune to damage for 1 turn. So this is quite a good, second passive skill. It makes her immune when anybody else on the battlefield is eliminated, but when she's eliminated, it'll heal your ally by 50% of her HP and make them immune to damage for 1 turn, which is quite good. So then we have her special skill here, which attacks all opponents with attack at 140% with absolute attack, which ignores damage deflection and debuff resist by 50%, and then puts 1 random opponent in confusion for 1 turn. So having an AoE special skill will be really, really useful for events such as Guild Labyrinth, and then it'll also ignore damage deflection and debuff resist, doing extra damage, and then we'll put 1 opponent in confusion. So that's quite good. Down here we have a level 90 stats, 22,200 attack-ish, which is, you know, pretty standard. We have defense at 811, which is quite high. We have 123,636 HP, also high. We have 496 speed, which is decent. And then we have her rates here, like block effect and whatnot. So, you know, overall you can see why she's a force to be reckoned with her boost, which makes her insane in Guild Lab, and then also with her special skill, which will go along with her boost just as well. So then we have Prime King Uma's, or Yuma, I don't know how to pronounce it, if anybody could let me know in the comments, but we have her skills down here. C1, Home Run. Attacks one opponent by 130% attack and recovers HP by 50% of the inflicted damage. The HP recovery here will be really, really useful with that C1, I promise you. And then inflicts additional damage by 15% of HP if the opponent has a weakened status. That is a really, really good C1, probably one of the better C1s that you'll see. Where she heals herself. It does quite a bit of damage since it's 130%. And then it also heals by 50% of that. So it's if you're running an Advent boss, and let's say, I'm not sure how high this could get, but if you do 100 crit, she'll heal for 50k. So, you know, that's quite a large heal for her there. Then we have her second skill here. Attacks all opponents with 30% HP, has a 60% probability of taunting them for one turn, and attacks the opponent with the highest attack, inflicting additional damage equal to 120% attack. So, the first part of this skill here, 30% HP, the higher her HP, obviously, the higher damage that'll deal, but, you know, it's not gonna be an insane amount of damage with this first part. One reason I'm also not too much of a fan of this is because it taunts all enemies for one turn if that gets off, but it only has a 60% probability. But, you know, if she does end up taunting all enemies, and let's say there's 4 enemies on the field, she could be taking quite a bit of damage there. However, this might not be an issue when I get down to her second passive here. So then this also does quite a lot of damage to the opponent with the highest attack, which is good. So then we have a third skill here, Go Pacho, which attacks all opponents by 115% attack, absorbs up to 5 weakened statuses from allies, and then removes all weakened statuses on the hero, and inflicts additional damage equal to 40% attack on the opponent with the highest attack every time a weakened status is removed. So that could do up to 200% extra damage, which is insane. So let's say you're running her on Advent Boss, you get off this C3, you're running her on Kuvara, your whole team is poisoned. She'll absorb those poisons, she'll do 315% attack to Kuvara, and then she'll also get rid of all the debuffs on herself, which is, you know, incredible for events such as Kuvara, where you're taking heaps and heaps of damage from multiple poisons. So then we have her first passive here, a 10% attack boost, 10% HP boost, 15% counter attack rate boost. That 15% counter attack rate boost will be very, very helpful because counter attacks are quite important for getting in extra damage. And then she gets 1 turn of status immunity when a stage starts, which means she won't be affected by like poison statuses or burns or anything, which is quite useful. And then here we have her second passive, which recovers 20% of HP when hit with damage that is greater than 20% of HP, 10% attack up to 50%, and 20% of defense up to 100%, accumulated whenever the hero attacks or is attacked. So after 5 attacks / getting attacked, she will have a 100% defense boost and a 50% attack boost, which is insane. That's applied by every chain as well, which means every attack will boost that passive, which means it's not going to be too difficult to get that passive up to max. So then once you have this passive fully built up, you can then use this move without worrying as much because her defense will be boosted by 100%. So here we have her base stats. Overall, her base stats are a little bit lower than Queen No Name's. Her defense is at 773, which is, you know, it's decent, but, you know, it's not as high as Queen No Name's, who was 811. But obviously these stats will change with gear place and stuff. These are just base stats, so it's not the be all and end all of, you know, your characters. So, now to compare them overall. So, after looking at these characters' skills, it's really hard to say which one is actually better than the other one, considering they're both very, very useful in different spots. For example, in Advent Boss, Prime King Uma will stomp over Queen No Name, but in events such as Guild Lab, you know, which a lot of people are, you know, aiming to optimize their Guild Labs teams these days to get higher on the leaderboard for their guild, Queen No Name will be more helpful with her 30% boost to skill damage on top of her AoE, special skill. So, in story mode, I do believe that Prime King Uma will be more helpful. In hard mode also, with her taunt ability, and then her passive will also help her take less damage, and she can also heal herself with her C1. So, they're both very, very good units. I think that she will be better in Guild Labyrinth and Dungeons, which will require you to do more damage to multiple opponents. She'll also be quite good in Trial Tower, because she attacks multiple opponents and boosts skill damage. She'll be good in Hero Dungeon, because she also boosts the amount of damage done, and with Guild Dungeon, you'll be facing, you know, enemies that are much stronger, but they don't have that high of a HP pool. So doing damage as fast as you possibly can inside of Hero Dungeon, you know, but, you know, Hero Dungeon isn't really that much of an issue. She'll be good in Dungeons and Guild Lab, whereas she will be more good in Story and Advent Boss. So, Story and Advent Boss, they're probably going to be more content based around, you know, building your own character, whereas, you know, this is kind of more of a competitive thing. So for new players, King Uma is probably going to be the one who is better than Queen No Name. Well, better in, you know, apostrophes or whatever, in quotation marks, sorry. So, yeah, take that as you will. People who are trying to optimize their Guild Lab teams, they will obviously pick Queen No Name over her, but, you know, for new players and players just trying to focus on grinding out Story and Advent Bosses, Prime King Uma is going to be a game changer for those when she comes out. So they're both unreleased units, as I said before. I think you actually play with her A rank in the tutorial now, which I don't remember actually doing when I was doing the tutorial, but I played the tutorial on a newer account recently, and you actually use her A rank, but her SS isn't currently in the game. So that's all I actually wanted to talk about in this video. Once again, shout out to Milk and the bot for providing me with this information. If you found this video helpful, consider leaving a like and subscribing to my channel. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much for 100 subs on the channel. I'm really, you know, glad that we, you know, reached 100 subs. So, yeah, that's pretty much the video done, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.